I'm David Benyon, and I'm Professor of Human-Computer Systems at Napier University in Edinburgh. My background is human-computer interaction, so I started way back in 1984, I think, my first publication in human-computer interaction at one of the first human-computer interaction conferences, in fact. So I've been involved in that field really ever since, in one way or another. The main project we have ongoing at the moment is called Companions, and it's to do with the whole development of what we see as a new form of interface, new form of interaction, I should say, particularly with the internet. So the fundamental idea is that the interaction will be personalized. It will know enough about you and your habits and your ways of behaving. So you won't have to fight through all the information that's out there. You'll get personalized information coming back. We use the term companion because we're trying to evoke a sort of anthropomorphic response. So we're trying to get people to think of it as if it were your friend, your companion, but of course it doesn't necessarily have to be an avatar, a picture. Although, I mean, that's one way in which it can do. So that's a big project. We're 1 year into a 4-year project on that. And of course, the other thing we do is participate in PEACH, which is the Coordination Action for Presence Research, where we lead the outreach and public understanding side of that work. I think the easiest way to connect to answer that is that for me, presence is being connected. So when you feel really connected with a person or a place, then you're feeling present. So it's very easy to drift off if you're at a boring lecture or something. So you weren't present then. But if you're really watching a great TV show or something, you feel really engaged, you're really identifying with the characters, then you'd be saying you feel really present. I like one of John Waterworth's examples when he says when you're sort of rock climbing, you have to feel really present. You have to really know exactly what you're doing because, of course, your life's at stake. Whereas if you're lying on a beach, you don't really need to feel present. There's no danger. You're just lying there and enjoying the sunshine. Could be any beach. You really feel quite absent. So I'd say it's to do with a feeling and the feelings of being connected, of reaching beyond your immediate surroundings very often, and feeling connected to things beyond where you're just sitting or where you're just physically located. No, I think we need to embrace the whole range of issues that currently come under presence research. So some of that will be traditional telepresence work, but others will be much more modern, new approaches, sociologically based and so on, in which we're more concerned with connecting people with other people and those social forms of presence there. So I think a sort of liberal approach, an open approach to the work that people are doing within the presence community is probably fine. Presence is an area of study. It's a discipline, if you like. So it uses appropriate scientific methods drawn from different areas, and it evolves its own to look at its own things. So yeah, I just think presence is a particular discipline to do with that whole feeling of being in touch. It's really akin to something like the study of psychology or sociology or something like that. I would say one of the big social sciences. So presence is a social science, if you like. That would be my reaction to that. We were involved in a project about photorealistic representations of places, and we were brought in to help with the measurements. It was very much a technological focused project. And they had people who took photos, they had people who did the rendering in virtual environments, and they had people with a cave and people with HMDs and all of this technology. And what they didn't have was any people really to do the studying, to do the measuring, to do the understanding of what was affecting presence. And that's really what brought us in to that particular area. Well, I think it's absolutely central to the whole future of human-computer interaction and the future technologies. Because, as I say, it's to do with this connectedness. It means that we're connecting people at a distance, and we've got to design that properly. We've got to make that a great experience. We've got to make that a real experience for people. So whether or not it's the design of avatars and companions and those sorts of things, or whether or not it's the design of telecare systems for the elderly, then what you're trying to do actually is do things from a distance. And I think you've got to be able to do them well, and presence is the study of how to do things well from a distance. Well, we've already seen many applications. And there will continue to be lots of further applications. I mean, some of the best things about presence are probably in IMAX cinemas, I would think, at the current time, or in Disney World, where you've got fantastic experiences through large-scale design, where they bring together the mechanics and the visual and the audio and all the other senses to give you a real feeling, a real sensation of being in a completely alien place or any environment. I think it'll be, I'm not too worried about what it is just now, but in the future it's going to be keeping in touch with my children, I would think. So that, the technologies are there as they travel and move and change, that you'll be able to maintain good contact at the right sort of level. So not just a telephone call and not just something like that, but a more intimate level, as if they were actually coming to visit you. So I think that's going to be a big, so telecare and elderly people for, systems to keep the elderly in touch with their friends and family, I think is a big area. Huge and many issues there are on terms of the ethical side. So firstly, it's this whole business about if are we creating things that are unreal and yet making people believe they're real. I think that's ethically very, very dangerous. I think that there's all sorts of other issues to do with the design of experiences if we're training people or helping people to learn things, and then they transfer that experience to the real world. So the movement between the real and the virtual worlds, I think, are big issues. But I think there's all sorts of ethics to do with how we treat virtual representations of ourselves. So, if we meet in Second Life, is it okay for me to beat you up? I would say not. But, it's not actually going to hurt you physically. So I think that the virtual representations of ourselves, because you do identify, you feel present with yourself in a virtual environment. And then, so we've got responsibilities to behave ethically in those circumstances as well. Well, all of them. Although the technology is much better, it's still too slow. Graphics rates, refresh rates is too slow. The images are still, pixelated when they need to be higher resolution. Caves are still very, very big pixels, if you like, in that sort of thing, rather than being things looking really solid. They look very see-through. So although the results of the technology are very impressive, it's still not quite good enough. You've got to have the haptic side of it has got to be seriously improved, I think, to provide real sense of distance, of touch at a distance. That's coming, but it's not there. If we want to have real telemedicine, in which you really are operating on someone who's a long way away, you've got to have all the senses reacting in real time as they would do were you really there, I think. No, I think in our area it's okay because we can explore things because we're not really working at the technological end of the thing. We're working at the usage and the activity and what people are doing. So we can almost always mock up future technologies in some way to look at what effect they might have. And that's what we do a lot of time with the artificial companions idea. So instead of it being a real avatar really talking, you use something like Skype and you have somebody talking at the end through a radio link, which makes it look as if the avatar is talking. So, you know, those things are quite easy to create to look at the social side of things. Sure, definitely, yeah. And it's going to be all mixed up. I mean, we're going to consistently have experiences which mix the real and the virtual, and the whole idea of distinction between real and virtual is going to gradually vanish as the technology becomes increasingly a part of the mediated experience. So it'll all be mixed up. I think it has changed the way we see the world, yes, because we did a lot of work on understanding of of a sense of place, what it means to be somewhere. So the traditional definition of presence is to be there, and we took the there very seriously and started trying to investigate what a sense of place was and how it can be affected by the technology, and by the way, your experience is mediated by the things you have. So I think that was probably the biggest contribution, the biggest effect that it had on me. It's how to design great experiences for people. How to design for great experiences so that people can have satisfying and exciting and good and great experiences.